Good morning, everyone. Alicia Fernandez here with the Fine Art Photography Company. I know that wedding season is coming up, and I thought it would be a good idea to discuss with everybody a little bit of some of the things that you might want to consider when you're looking around for a wedding photographer. The first thing I have on my list this morning, and by the way, congratulations to any of you who have just gotten engaged or are planning your wedding this fall. I know it's got to be a really crazy time of year for you. Getting everything going, getting everything settled, but wish you the best of luck with all of that, and I hope that it all works out really, really well for you. Okay, so the number one thing, not the number one thing, but the first thing on my list is equipment. A lot of amateur photographers will go out to maybe Sam's Club or Walmart, and they'll purchase an entry-level DSLR, so it's a digital camera, and yes, the lenses are interchangeable, but the camera itself is not built to handle professional events that need to be captured by a professional photographer. So one of the things that happens when the photographer is not using the correct equipment, the camera that they may have purchased at one of these discount wholesalers will be a camera with a crop sensor on it. That crop sensor limits the quality of the photographs that photographer can capture, especially in low light. So your receptions, which tend to be really, really dark with just a little bit of uplighting and maybe some ambient lighting, the photographer will not be able to capture that very well. A lot of the time their lenses will even go so far as not focusing because it's so dark in that room. And if they don't have the appropriate equipment to capture your reception, and a lot of the times the ceremony as well can be fairly dark depending on where it is and what you guys have planned, but if they're not able to capture the lighting, use professional lighting to capture that reception, you're going to end up with either photos that were never able to be taken because the camera wouldn't focus. A lot of the time they'll end up being very blurry. They'll have very, very low quality, which means that they're not going to be printable at a very large size. You might be lucky to get an 8x10 out of it. What else? Oh, the ceremony locations. Let's talk about that for just a second. Ceremony locations tend to be, some of them can be pretty well lit, others might not be, and you could easily end up with photos that look very yellow or very green, depending if they were shot under tungsten lighting or under fluorescent lighting. So a photographer that has a camera that's capable of adjusting its white balance, that's very, very important. And it's not something that comes with all cameras. I've seen a lot of the entry-level cameras that don't have this ability at all. Some of them might just have a few automatic settings, but none of them will be customizable. So you definitely want to make sure that the photographer that you're hiring has professional quality equipment. The Fine Art Photography Company has invested a great deal of money in having all of the equipment that's necessary in order to capture your event properly and to provide you with the artistic images that you expect from us. So you should really look into the equipment that other photographers have before hiring them and making sure that that's up to par. The other thing is experience in lighting and posing. So this to me is one of the most important things, and it's really my favorite part of an event. Lighting and posing are the two most difficult things, in my opinion, for me, they were two of the most difficult things to master. Once you figure out the manual mode and you got your camera settings going, then the next thing is going to be adding that artificial light and adding it in a way that is flattering to the couple and that makes the photo look beautiful and that produces images that are artistic and high quality and gorgeous. If you hire a photographer that has no experience in lighting, typically they're not going to have the correct lighting equipment, so they might end up with just a little flash that isn't enough, or the equipment that they have is just not good enough. So the posing is the other thing. It takes a lot of experience to figure out how to pose a couple in a way that's flattering, not only flattering, but also tells a story about their day. So you don't want someone who's just going to throw you out there, put you together, look at the camera, take a picture, and we're done. You definitely want somebody that's going to be capable of telling the story of your day and of showing photos of the bride by herself, the groom by himself, and kind of the way that they slowly but surely come together towards the end of the portrait session. Is just very natural. When you start out with one person, you work in the second one, and then you have this couple sort of telling a story about their love on the pages of their wedding album. A photographer that does not have experience in lighting and posing is not going to be able to accomplish that in the little bit of time that's allowed between the ceremony and the reception. So typically we have maybe an hour between the time that the ceremony ends and that the reception begins. And once the reception begins, the photographer has to be in there about 10 or 15 minutes before the couple is introduced in order to set up. So that really limits the amount of time in between the ceremony and the reception. And in addition to the couple's photos, in between that time, we're going to have to go in and capture the photos of the couple with both sides of the family, any children they might have, the whole bridal party, the bride with the bridesmaids, the groom with the groomsmen, all of them together. I mean, that's a big chunk of time that's taken for that. And if the photographer doesn't have a lot of experience in doing that, they're going to end up taking a lot more time than what is needed. And it's going to eat up your time, because the last little piece that's usually left at the very end, I mean, once we get the family photos taken care of, we go ahead and send the family in to cocktail hour. And then once we get all of the photos of the bridal party done, we go ahead and send the bridal party into cocktail hour. So the last little piece that we're left with is the couple by themselves. And typically we end up with about 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes it might be as little as 15 minutes that we as photographers get to spend with just the couple, getting those beautiful portraits that you see on the website and that you love so much. So it's really a very limited amount of time that we have in order to capture those minutes, that moment. And if you hire a photographer that doesn't have a lot of experience in that, you're going to end up with someone who's going to take a lot of time to try and pose you, and they might feel a little bit uncomfortable about it because they don't do it very often. So you're going to end up with a lot less photos in that piece there, and you're also going to have someone who's going to be fiddling with their equipment a lot more too. So they might take up a bigger chunk of your time in trying to pose you properly and then in trying to use their equipment properly. So you really want to hire somebody that has a lot of experience in moving very quickly and being able to get you from maybe even cover 3 locations, 4 locations with you and your new husband. How exciting. Getting somebody that's able to cover, locations like that and able to get you a lot of different poses in that little bit of time, and poses that tell stories, that tell romantic, beautiful stories. Having somebody that's able to do that for you is very, very important. So please, if you're looking to hire a photographer for your wedding, make sure that you take that into consideration and look through an album, a couple of albums that start a wedding from beginning to end, so that you can see exactly what they were able to capture before the ceremony, even the getting ready photos. You want to make sure you have a look at some of those. The ceremony before the family and the guests arrive, you want to make sure that room is photographed. You want to see how much attention they pay to all of the details and make sure that, are we back? We are, okay. You want to make sure that that person is able to capture all of those details for you and document them for generations to come, because you're not going to get all of those details back. So all of that is really, really important. So we covered equipment, and we covered experience in lighting and posing. And the last thing is artistic ability. You definitely want somebody who has experience, again, in telling a story in an artistic way for your wedding day. You want someone who's able to pose you in ways that tell stories and that lend themselves to a beautiful album, because that's what you're going to want at the end, is a book that tells a story of your whole wedding day. And if you end up hiring a photographer that doesn't have a lot of experience in posing couples and in capturing events, you're going to end up with a wedding album that's very blotchy. It doesn't really have everything in it. It doesn't have all of the details. It doesn't have those beautiful photographs that you want of, the couple the first time they were together as a husband and wife. I mean, it's really, really important that you hire someone that knows what they're doing from beginning to end, and that they have the right equipment to capture your big day. The last two things that I wanted to cover were reviews. You're going to want to look online for Google Maps is great. They have a lot of reviews on Google Maps. We have 5-star rating on Google Maps, so people can go on there at any point and just write a review about us and tell you what they think about the services that we provided. And that's true for anyone that has a listing on Google Maps. So if you're hiring a photographer, definitely go online and check their reviews. I know there's several other websites that also offer reviews, so please be sure to read over those. And the last thing I would highly recommend is hiring a photographer that's able to give you a list of referrals. So if you're on the fence about hiring someone and you know that you like their work and you're happy with everything else, just go ahead and ask them for a couple of contact information for a few of the couples that they photographed in the past. That'll give you a good idea of how they worked the day of the event, any problems that may have arisen and how that photographer was able to handle those problems. Just really any questions that you might want to ask someone who's already worked with this person. It's really a good idea to do that so that you can be sure to make an informed decision about the person who's going to be spending the entire day with you on one of the most important days of your life. Again, Alicia with the Fine Art Photography Company. If you need anything at all, you have any questions, please feel free to call at 813-534-0037, or you can message me at The Fine Art Photo Co. That's The Fine Art Photo Co. at gmail.com, or you can visit us on the web at www.thefineartphotoco. Thank you so much for watching today, and if you have anything that you need help with, please give us a call. Let us know. Bye.